Good morning, everybody. How is everybody today?
Good. How are you?
All right. Let's get things started here so that we can stay on time and be out of here when we promised. Thank you all for being here, and for those of you that are here in person, and thank you to those of you who joined us online. If you're here in person, hopefully you saw the sign-in sheets on your way in. You can just mark those if your name is already printed, or write your name in the new sheet on the right if you haven't been to one of these events before. There's coffee in the back, there's a few snacks, and the restrooms are across the hall if anybody here needs them. Online folks, if I can have you type in the chat box your name, the company you're with, and your email address. That way we can get a good attendance list at the end of the day. We'll also have a Q&A at the end of the presentation, which folks online will have you use the chat feature for that as well. I'm Tina Waskowitz. I think I forgot to say that. Deputy Director for Transportation and Mobility. We also have J.M. Rayburn here with us today, and our summer intern, Finley Price. So we're so excited to have an intern this year for the first time. Jeannie Wells is probably also going to come down, the Director of Transportation Mobility. She'll join us when she is available. And Brian Gable is here, Deputy Director of Engineering. Brian, do you have any of your folks in the room? Okay, perfect. There we go. So welcome back. I know a lot of you are familiar faces. If you're new to this process, there's a quick overview. We've done the advertisement for the bulletin. We're here at the introduction meeting today, and this meeting is being recorded. We'll post it online so that you can reference it if you want to. The first due date for this round of the bulletin is July 11th at 2:30. And following that submission, we'll have the evaluation of the SOQs, the shortlist, and the proposals by invitation. After the invitations, then we'll enter the perform the evaluations and enter the contract negotiations, which we expect to be on this round September 23. The statement of qualifications is again the 10-page limit with the items listed in the bulletin. Nothing new here. If you have already submitted an SOQ from the most recent bulletin, which would have been the winter 2023, you don't have to resubmit it. You can provide an affidavit that says nothing has changed and list your letters of interest, projects of interest. You always have the option of just resubmitting and including more reference projects that might be more specific to this bulletin versus the previous bulletins. This is again similar to last time to include these items when we get to the proposal stage. Nothing's really new here. Just to point out, because I haven't yet today, we're saying on this slide specifically to list the division name, engineering or transportation and mobility. This specific round only has transportation and mobility projects in it. But we will, I'm sure, have Brian's team throw lots of projects in for the next round. Okay, so since we are the division with the projects, we're starting here with the transportation and mobility projects. Our first project we're really excited about, we want to take a look at making a connection over I-270 south of the freeway interchange with US 33 that connects somewhere along Emerald Parkway, Shire Rings Road area over to the Metro Blazer area. So we want a consultant to take a look at this, see where that might best land, what type of a bridge might be best to use there. and what sorts of challenges we will face, because I'm sure there will not be a shortage. So this is the first project in the bulletin. If you're interested in that, that would be T&M Project 1. And the completion date on this one is determined by the consultant in the proposal. So there's not a set completion date. It's something that can be determined by the schedule that's submitted with the proposal. The second project, this is a similar project to one we've had in a previous bulletin. We want to continue our mobility focused traffic count program. We would like to work with a consultant to develop the list of locations that would be good. This will be an iteration between the consultant and the city to determine where we want those counts to land. And this would be active through the summer of next year, about June 28th of 24. The next project is a detailed design project for the Transportation and Mobility Division. So this is the pedestrian crossing improvement for Moorfield Drive at Fells Mill Drive. We have a study underway right now that is making a recommendation for a hawk type solution at this intersection. So we want to enter the next phase of detailed design on that project with the planned completion date targeted for April of next year. And JM, do you want to come up and introduce your project? You.
Good morning, everyone. Project 4 is a Dublin microtransit study. We currently operate the Dublin Connector, which you see on the screen. It's operated by Share Mobility, and we provide fare-free rides to anyone who works in Dublin, anyone over 55, and anyone with a disability. We're looking to see how this program will evolve and better meet the needs of the community moving forward, and that can be other components of our community, more than the ones I listed. For this, we want to develop an overarching plan that looks at feasibility of different vehicle types, looking at service hours, other components that would make up our microtransit service, which would augment COTA's fixed route service in our community. We're looking for within the community of Dublin, so the city limits, but also extending out 1.25 miles. The reason being is that is the distance from our border to Carriage Place at Sawmill and Bethel, where we pick up a large amount of workforce riders and also other riders. So looking at that 1.25 mile buffer around the city for picking up individuals, particularly for the workforce and getting into Dublin employers. And the completion date for this is targeted for September 18th of 2024. Thank you.
And this is Jeannie Willis to round out our introductions. Director of Transportation and Mobility. Thanks for joining us, Jeannie. All right, so if any of those projects looks interesting to you and your team, here's what we're going to do next. So we've got the advertisement out and available. Presumably you've all seen that since you showed up today. Thank you so much. We're here, and again, the meeting will be posted online so that you can come back and reference this if there's anything that you missed. First due date again is July 11th for the statement of qualifications, which is the 10-page limit. I forgot to mention earlier, the ODOT qualifications don't count in the 10-page limit. So 10 pages of your quals followed by ODOT pre-quals, which don't have to count against your 10 pages. Then we'll do the short list, proposals, evaluations, and contract negotiations. Okay, that was a super quick presentation today. So JM is taking questions for folks online. If you can type those in your chat box. Folks in the room, if I can just see a hand, would love to take any questions on the project, the process, the timeline, anything that you might have on your mind this morning. Yes, thanks.
On project 3, you very briefly mentioned that there's some existing stuff.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? When's it specifically completed? that study will be as it relates to defining sign.
Yes, that is at the 90% stage of the study right now. So that will be wrapping up before we get into the proposal stage for the detailed design. So those recommendations will be available during that development of the proposals. The recommendation, I don't think I answered your whole question. So the recommendation coming out of that at the 90%, which we would expect to follow through, is this type of system that's shown on the screen with a mast arm and a pedestrian hybrid beacon system, or a hawk, which actually assigns full right-of-way to the pedestrian. So a lot of the systems that we have in Dublin that enhance crosswalk have a blinker LED, like just a border blinker, and those don't actually change the law for the crossing, right? They still have onus on the pedestrian and the driver for the right of way. This system would actually have the red light for the driver, full stop requirement, and allow that pedestrian crossing to happen safely. If you know this area, there's a elementary school on the east side of the road. There's a large walk and bike population from neighborhoods on both sides of Murfield Drive. So just trying to help those vulnerable users get across.
Study them to define that.
Yes, we will have the recommended solution coming out of the study. The detailed design will take that recommendation forward and advance construction drawings so that we can go to construction. OHM. Yes. On project 3? That was probably a typo. Yeah. This is all incorporated within City of Dublin. Yeah. Thanks for that clarification. We can send out an addendum to fix that. Oh, do you want to take over the microphone? Thanks, Jan.
So we have two questions. One is from David, which we will address in a second. And the other one is, oh. Okay. Should I? All right. Thanks everyone for that, your patience. So we have two questions. One is from David of VIA. And the other is from Jeff. And so we'll start with Jeff's questions first and get back to David's. Jeff asked, when will the shortlist be determined and what's the general time frame, please?
That's a great question. We, based on that July 11th due date, that'll be a couple of weeks for us to review and evaluate the SOQs, and then we would send the request for proposals shortly after that. And then the proposals would be due about 2 weeks after that shortlist comes out, 2 or 3 weeks.
Then the second question is from David. David asked, can you confirm that the requirement for ODOT pre-qualification applies to TNM Project 4, which is the Dublin Microtransit Study? And does this requirement apply to some consultants or only the prime consultant? For that project in particular, that's not applicable, the ODOT pre-qualification. So I would not worry about that one for project number 4.
Any other questions online? Can I take any from the room? Yeah. technology for that?
I'll unmute myself and repeat what you said. So we had a question in the group about the microtransit study project number 4, asking about technology components, integration with CODAs, especially the back end. We are interested in mobility as a service. So however that is going to play out, if that is through apps like Transit app or Google Transit, that's one area we want to look at, and also coordinate with CODA as much as we can to make sure that that experience is seamless and as favorable as possible for those who are using transit. Another question for project 1, for traffic forecast, do you expect working with MORPC with their travel demand model?
So that's an interesting question on project 1. We are currently working on a project that will update the Dublin travel demand model from 2040 to get it up to the MORPC projections for 2050. If those local projections are available, we would prefer to use those. Depending on the timing of the 2 studies, will determine how that gets determined and what base solution we'll use for that horizon year projection. This is the other thing that I forgot to mention about this project number 1. This is an outcome of the Dublin Corporate Area Plan, which is available online, that was led by our planning division. So that's a little bit of background on that if you're interested in looking at how that concept was developed. Scott? Correct. The question was, is there any other study or evaluation that's been done since the Dublin Corporate Area Plan for this particular crossing? The answer is no. This is the next step, basically, for us to start thinking through how these pieces might build together and how we can support the redevelopment of the metro area.
Yeah, the same project and reference something like that, like consideration on the roadway and connection points.
Absolutely.
A little bit about what's out there now.
Sure. The Metro Place Loop has shared use path along the entire length, but ties into path along France Road. The west side has path along Emerald Parkway. And let's see if I can successfully transition. This is probably going to take a moment. Does anybody up here have Discovery open already? Yeah, this is publicly accessible at the same, what I'm using is the same version that somebody outside the city would use as well. So you can find all kinds of really good information with this mapping. There's also, since we're on this, there's also a button in the upper right corner called Open Data that you can download information and use that in your own systems. Yeah. Did you have your mic on?
While we're on Discovery, it's good to know that it's a really quick tool to see our corporate boundaries as you're determining that 1.25 mile buffer for the microtransit study. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. So there are some bike ped facilities on Shire Rings Road east of Emerald as well. So we would want to tie into anything we can here. It looks like maybe sidewalk on the north side and a path on the south side of Shire Rings Road. Yeah, it would have to somehow get across that little intersection with Dublin Industrial Lane. Oh, Shamrock Court. That's what we're used to calling it. And then the shared use path on the Metro Loop is on the outside of the loop. And there's not a bike ped facility yet on the inside of the loop. Yep.
So the question for project one is, are you anticipating ODOT to be a stakeholder through the study process?
So they'll definitely be involved. We'll want to keep them in the loop on this. We're working on a similar project that's crossing 270 in another area. What we think might develop is that there would be a permitting process or something that we would work with them on to get through some of those. Since we're not actually making a connection to the freeway, it's not as much ODOT involvement as we would be if there were an intersection or interchange within their jurisdiction. We're basically trying to just get up and over. And we've obviously just upgraded the interchange there with US 33 and 270. So we would, of course, work with them if they had any future planning programmed there. But it would be a city-led project, if that makes sense. Hopefully that answers that question. So the question is, would the bridge itself be ODOT maintained? That would be determined through the process of that study and that coordination with ODOT as those details developed. We don't know the answer to that right now.
I think the NORC defines what those who's stuff is responsible. And anything that's beyond what the typical ODOT maintenance would be city of government.
So sorry to repeat for people in the room, but for folks online, that was Jeannie Willis saying that by ORC, it would default to ODOT, and then any change to that would come with the project process.
So we received a question for project 3. Apologies if you've covered this already. You mentioned a study. What entity is conducting the study, please? Thank you.
Great question. This is a Dublin-led study. We are coordinating, I think this came up in the room, but maybe it wasn't audible online. OHM is performing the study on behalf of the city of Dublin. Yeah. Yeah, so the question is, how does the sidewalk tie into Scottish Corners, which is the elementary school on the east side of the project area? Those details will still partially be developed with the detailed design. Our current thought process is that the sidewalk extends from Murfield Drive to the first entrance of the elementary school to the east. Any other thoughts on these projects or questions that come to mind? Oh, Scott. Yes, I'm sure that we're going to take a lot of those experiences that we've had. Scott's asking about the project that is underway. We're taking a look at crossing 270 between Emerald and Teller, which I think is the project that you're referencing, which has progressed a little bit further along. So we've had some good coordination and communication with the community in that area, the developers in that area. So we've gained a lot from that. We are spending a lot of time developing those pedestrian and bicycle facilities that somebody had asked about and making those connections. So I think that we can build on what we've learned from that. One of the things that became obvious early on in that study is that it's pretty tricky to keep the grade at a comfortable elevation for a bike ped and get up and over a freeway and back down. So that'll be a challenge with this project that I'm sure we'll face and need to sort out how we can comfortably get bike peds up and over and back into those logical tie-in points. So I think those are some of the lessons learned and probably more along the way that'll get shared as we develop these projects parallel and a little bit of tandem, right? Right, right. Trying to build that in, exactly. Yeah. Great question. Any other thoughts? Well, if not, thank you so much for coming out today. It was great seeing you all in person and having you folks online. We will get the recording posted. So if anybody wants to come back and reference, we'll have that available on the same website as you found the bulletin on the City of Dublin proposals, bids and proposals RFP page. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.